Today we're going to be starting our new unit on proportions, and first we're going to do just a little bit of a review on proportions and ratios. So I'm going to kind of scroll down so we can see a lot of this all at once. First we're just going to talk about a ratios review. So let's fill in these blanks here as we talk about it. So it says we use ratios to solve proportions, find missing links in similar figures, and use the scale in maps and models. The next bullet, fractions can be written ratios can be written using fractions, the symbol, which we call a colon with those two dots, and the word to. So any way that you write it, you can write those ratios as fractions with the symbol or with the word to. You can simplify a ratio in the same way you simplify a fraction, by dividing the numerator and denominator by the same number. Ratios are proportionate if they make equivalent fractions. You can cross multiply, and if you get the same number on both sides, they are equivalent. And we're going to see what that looks like in just a moment. So first, let's just see a couple of examples about how to write a ratio. So in our first scenario, it says there are 15 girls and 30 boys in the class. Write a ratio of boys to girls 3 different ways. So the most important thing as we are filling out these ratios is to make sure that you pay attention to what the order is. So since they say boys first, you have to put the number of boys in the numerator of the fraction. So in this case, we have 30 boys, so I'm going to write 30 on top, and 15 girls, so I'm going to write 15 on the bottom. And then we always want to go through and simplify this if possible. So both of those can be divided by 15, so a simplified ratio would be 2 over 1. All right, let's try to write it with the colon now. So similarly, the boys, they ask for a ratio of boys to girls. So I have to put the 30 first, and then the colon, and then 15. And again, you can simplify that to 2 colon 1, and we would read that as 2 to 1. The last way is to actually write out that word to. So again, they say boys first, so it's boys to girls. And we would write that as 30 to 15 and 2 to 1. So our numbers aren't changing, it's just different ways of writing these ratios. So in this unit, most of the time that we see ratios are going to be written in proportions, and a lot of times they use the fraction form to write that out. So there will be times when they ask you if 2 ratios are proportional. And the way that you can figure that out is by cross multiplying. So here I have 3/5 and 9/15. So if I cross multiply, I'm going to connect the 3 to the 15 and the 9 to the 5 and figure out what I get when I multiply those numbers that are connected together. So 3 times 15 equals 45, and 9 times 5 equals 45. Since I got the same exact number, that means that I do have a proportionate ratio, because 45 equals 45. Let's try this next one. So again, I'm going to draw that X to show that I'm cross multiplying. The 4 is going to be connected to the 54, and when I multiply those, I get 216. And then I'm going to multiply 9 by 27, and when I type that into my calculator, I get 243. Since I did not get the same numbers, those are not proportional ratios, because 216 does not equal 243. All right, let's look at this last one. I've got 5/7 and 45/63. So when I cross multiply, the 2 numbers that I get when I type them into my calculator to multiply are 315, and on the other side, 315. Since I got the same exact number, those are proportionate ratios. 315 equals 315, so I can write yes, they are proportionate. All right, let's go down to the second half of our notes here on proportions. So here we are talking about solving proportions. So remember, proportions are often written as 2 ratios set equal to each other. So anytime you see a fraction, 2 fractions equal to each other with an X in there, that is a proportion with an unknown value. So we can use what we know to find the unknown information by setting up a proportion written as two ratios. And again, just like last time, we're going to cross multiply and solve the equation to find the missing piece of our proportion. So let's look at number 1 here. So I'm going to draw that x to show which numbers are getting multiplied. The 5 connected to the x. So 5 times x, well, I'm just going to squish them together to be 5x. I'm going to put the equal sign because they were equal to each other, and then multiply 8 by 15 to get 120. And now I have an equation that I can go ahead and solve. So I'm going to draw my railroad tracks. The 5 next to the x means to multiply, so I'm going to divide to get rid of it. When I do that on both sides, I'm going to get a final answer of x equals 24. Let's try number 2. Again, I'm going to draw that x to show that I'm cross multiplying. And I always like to look for where that x is and start with that. So since I have the x connected to 8, I'm going to write that out as 8x equals 3 times 14, I get 42. Draw your railroad tracks. They're next to each other, that means multiply, so to get rid of it, I'm going to divide by 8. And my final answer, when I divide 42 divided by 8, I get 5.25. And there are going to be times where it doesn't come out evenly, so just make sure that you're following the right steps, and you'll know that you have the right answer. All right, we have 2 more problems here, so I'm actually going to pause the video while I work these out, and I want you to do the same. So go ahead and push pause, try 3 and 4, and then we'll come back together and make sure that you got the right answer. All right, now that we've come together and you've had a chance to try it on your own, look over my answers to questions 3 and 4 in our examples. I have it written in green up here. So for number 3, you should have gotten x equals 32, and for number 4, you should have gotten x equals 3.8. So that's the end of our notes, but we do have one more thing that I just want to go through as kind of a hint as you are working on your practice on the next page. So over on the side here, I want you to go up to that first set of examples where we were writing down our pieces here, where right next to where it says there are 15 girls and 30 boys, that part there. That section is going to be helping you guys on questions 1 through 12. On the next page. The next section where it says, are these ratios proportional? That's going to be helping you out on questions 13 through 18 on the next page. And then if you go down to that last part that we just did, numbers 1 through 4 there, that's going to help you out on questions 19 through 27. So just write yourself those little reminders so that as you're working on the practice, if you get stuck, you can go back to the notes to help yourself out.